So how do we change the story of ourselves and of the world we live in that no longer serves us? Your story is real. And at the same time, it's not the whole story. So I'm not telling you that you're wrong. You're not. But maybe there's a way to tweak it so that you can make room for more hope and more confidence in yourself, as well as maybe greater peace with the world in which you live. When I was a facilitator for the Child Assault Prevention Program in Durango years ago, I learned something important. This was part of our training. Two girls might experience the same terrible event. The first has a backstory of a loving family and has confidence and self-worth. The second has a different backstory, one where she's a bad child and unworthy. The first may frame the terrible event as this: someone hurt me, I'm angry at them, and I'm going to do what I can to correct the situation in a reasonable way. The second may instead have a totally different story. Somehow, I made this happen, and I'm at fault. I'm ashamed, and I'm not going to tell anyone. So let me give you an example. I'm going to show you a picture, and I want you to take a look at this image and put me on pause as you figure out the story of what's happening here. When you come up with a story, unpause me. Okay, what was the story? A married couple getting ready for the day, the husband looking at the wife with love, or an illicit affair? Something else entirely. This picture can be read in many ways depending upon your life experience. So what does it take to change the story? In the first video on stories we tell ourselves, I explored secondary gain and that story that you agreed to as a child to make your life more bearable. And it doesn't fit anymore. For some, just knowing that the way in which you're seeing yourself in the world is just a story helps. You have the ability to step back from your life in order to see it more clearly. Maybe you use meditation and just let the story float on by and observe it. Maybe you do some kind of processing to give yourself a little room. Early on, I was working with a woman who had a mother who was emotionally immature, who was selfish, neglectful, needy. We did some EMDR, a well-researched trauma therapy, and something amazing happened. She began to also recall when, at times, her mother was attentive, caring, and generous. Her story expanded. The picture filled in more. The core belief that she had about herself, that she was unlovable, changed. She knew instead that she was lovable, had been loved. Ultimately, not only was she able to heal her trauma, but she was able to reconcile with her mother for the flawed human being her mother was. Now, this is not to say that all of you are going to have that experience, but that gives you an idea of when we fill in the story, we can have unexpected consequences for how we experience ourselves in the story. If you find yourself knowing intellectually that there's more to the story than the one that's running like malware inside of you, but that more nuanced and complicated story just doesn't feel true, and you just can't give yourself enough room away from the story to have some clarity, you can do many kinds of process work. You can journal, you can create art, you can see a trauma therapist Talk to a friend with a similar experience and notice how they tell the story a little differently. Now, here's a trick that I learned that can be very helpful. Whatever story you're telling yourself about who you are in the world, of how the world is, try telling the story from someone else's point of view. So let me tell you the story of myself and my mother. Right? One of my mother's favorite words to describe people who asked her for anything was mooch. So as I grew up, anytime someone asked me to help them in some way, I inwardly became resentful because I could hear my mother's voice in my head saying, mooch. Yeah. Until I thought about an event I'd recently experienced, and this was years ago. I stepped out of myself as I replayed the scene and into the point of view of the person making a request and told the story from her perspective. No big surprise. In her mind, she was just asking for something. I could say yes, I could say no. And if I said no, she could just ask somebody else. No evil intent existed. So try it now. I'm going to show you another picture, this one of a family at the dinner table. Identify the one you feel the most akin to and tell the story from their perspective. Unpause me when you're done. Now, when you're ready, choose another person in the picture and tell the story from their perspective. I think you get the idea. It's not that our stories are false. It's also that our stories are incomplete, a slice of a greater truth. Getting distance, shifting perspectives, and getting unstuck from trauma are all ways that we can create a new story that allows us to live more effectively and with greater confidence in the world now.